Yo, this is Plaga Benz and time have come. The Lion tell them one story. This is the Lion's Voice. Stay tuned.
What do you have to tell the people about Ras Tafari?
Light to the world. The king of kings and the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. I left himself. Where's my ruler? Hey yo! Yeah, hear them high, hear the black king born the 23rd of July. So tell them guy who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your
I
night.
heard of that.
From ancient time them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them come without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill. The lion will come conquer Judah tribe. Go through tribulation, I and I strive, see sufferation, I and I still rise. That's why we tell them, in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come to tell them, in a Toronto, straight at it.
Help I to welcome Sister Masani. Welcome.
Give thanks, Rasquasi. It's a pleasure being here. And I must say, with that kind of introduction, it's like, wow. Give thanks for the introduction.
Yes,
Man.
we have to let ones know the great things that they are doing, because oftentimes we get stuck on the mix up, and yes, people are flawed, and every society, every culture has that happening. We want to highlight some of the great things that our elders, our frontline workers, we want to encourage the next generation. They can come on our YouTube when they search, and this is a search engine, so remember, if they search Rastafari conference, this video will come up, and they can hear from the person who organized the first Rastafari conference, what's going on. So take us to your childhood. Where did it start? Where were you born? And then the journey into Rastafari.
All right. Well, you know what? I was born in Kingston, Jamaica. And I remember as a child, my parents had a business in Jonestown. So I can remember as far back as 9 years old. 9 years old. But I know that I was born in Jonestown. My parents were born from St. Elizabeth. But as far as I can remember, at 9 years old, they had business, shop, grocery, everything. And then we moved from Jonestown to Almontown. Then I think my best years were at Almontown. I would say from maybe 10 to say maybe 14, because I went to Denontown Secondary School. And from Denontown we went to Woolmer's.
Okay.
So and then we left from Almontown. I went to Vineyardtown. I remember spending 1 year in Vineyardtown. So I remember being 15 years old at Vineyardtown, doing 1 year at Woolmer's, and then I left to Jamaica and came to Toronto at 16 years old.
Okay.
So you're talking a very, very long time. That would have been 1974, because I left Jamaica in 1974 and came to Toronto. And 1 week after being in Toronto, I was downtown demonstrating with a placard in my hand at 16 years old. That was my introduction to racism in Canada.
Okay.
And how I end up demonstrating.
A lot of people think that there is no racism in Canada.
Yes, that's what they think. And how I end up being there. Remember now, 16 years old, fresh off the boat, as the saying would go, as Babylon would say. 1 week in Toronto, at 16 years old, I was demonstrating. You know why? A black youth was shot and killed by a white man. And the reason why, he said the first black person he sees, he was going to kill. He was frustrated from how the story goes. He was frustrated because I guess his girlfriend left him for a black guy or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was so angry with black people, he said the first black person I see, I'm going to kill. Unfortunately, the first black person he saw was a black youth coming from work, leaving school, going to work. He saw the black youth, 16 years old, and shot and killed him. That was in 1974. And that was my introduction to Toronto. Okay. And because my high school friends they know the guy, And back in those days, in the 70s, you hear about shooting. Of course, you're gonna go and demonstrate. They go without saying. So all of my friends, I must say, there was a handful of friends in high school. Because I didn't have that much black kids then. I went to Stephen Leacock in Scarborough. I know you're a Scarbarian, but I went to school in Scarborough, and there we were, a handful of us. We were gonna demonstrate, and that was and since that first demonstration, I've been demonstrating in Toronto for every single sort where black people have been killed. And even after that, police were just killing black people like flies.
Wow.
And then I got involved right away in the black community in terms of what was happening then. So
were you Rastafari at 16, or were you?
no, I was a Rasta youth, but without locks. And I tell you what, when I was 12 years old, I never forget that. My first encounter with Rastafari was 12 years old in Jamaica. And when I was living in Almantown, for 3 years I used to walk from Almantown to Denhamtown. I walked from Almantown to Denhamtown to go to school for 3 years through race course. And I remember one time I saw this elder Rasta man in Almantown. They call him I the Rasta man. For those who from Almantown around that time, they would remember I the Rasta man. I the Rasta man was this Rasta man with locks long to the ground. And he had his 2 daughters that he was taking to school. And when, at 12 now, remember I was 12, and when I saw this elder Rasta man, I said, I wish that was my father. And when I grew up, I would love to be a Rastafari. That's how I saw this elder Rasta man taking care of his 2 little girls, taking them to school every morning. My desire was to be a Rastafari person, knowing, just looking at and admiring him. And that was at 12. And that desire kept me going throughout the years. And then when I left Jamaica and came to Toronto at 16, I always remember I the Rasta man. Then I started Loxing at 19 years old. And then when I left high school, I went to college. For 3 years, I was considered odd. Remember, you're talking 19 years old, because that time I had lots with, big head wrap, long skirt, but I was, I was looking odd to my classmates. I thought I was bald because my head was always covered, right?
Okay.
And remember, no, you're talking from 1977 to 1980. It's not like now where, locks is very much covered.
You're not used to locks at all.
No, absolutely not. We have to hide it. We have to hide our locks. So for that 3 years in college, from 19 years old to 21 years old, 22 years old, I had to have my head covered, but my classmates thought I was bald. And I went through a lot of discrimination because I was doing journalism. In my second year of journalism, the white coordinator said to me, "Oh, blacks don't graduate from journalism here." I remember going home and telling my mom, said, "Mom, my teacher said I'm not going to graduate because I'm black." And my mom, being a Christian person, "Oh, let's pray." I said, "Mom, prayer not going to help me. It's hard work." And I remember for that 3 years, I worked extra hard to prove him that I'm going to graduate as a journalist. So when I graduated in 1980 as a journalist, I had my locks, fire Rasta, person, taking on, looking to take the place by storm. But then before that, though, there were other things that were happening before 1980. Because in 1975, Bob Marley came to Toronto. Okay. And 3 days, 1975, Bob Marley came to Toronto. And 3 days after Bob Marley's visit, the Global Mail newspaper, one is more white established newspaper, launched a vicious attack on the Rasta community in Toronto.
Okay.
For 1 whole week, they said Rastas were time bombed, they're going to explode. Rastas were criminal. We were the terrorists. They talk about terrorists. We were the terrorists.
Wow.
Rastas were terrorists. We were criminals. They're gonna, the time bomb gonna export. What was happening though was New York. So they were importing information from New York to Toronto. So back then, the 70s, remember we're talking the 70s here, you did have people with locks in New York doing things. You did have people in Toronto with locks doing criminal things. Those
Yes.
things were happening at the same time. So you had the
That
consciousness.
was the early part of the shower posse and all of
Yes.
those things that were
That-
happening. The 80s, of course, famously was the crack era.
Mhm.
They were, wearing locks and carrying all types of criminality. So continue.
Yes, so you're totally correct. So it all ties in between what was happening in Jamaica, New York, and Toronto. And I'm sure it was probably happening in England too, but I'm not quite familiar with the England story, but I know about Jamaica, New York, and Toronto. So with people having locks and committing criminal activities, of course, they're gonna say, well, all Rastas are like that. So we went through a lot of, things after that Bob Marley concert. And brethren who, police would just grab them and tear out their locks, beat them up, put them in prison, all sort of thing. But then the organization, and we have to give a lot of credit to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, because back then, the only established, let's say, organ in Toronto in terms of Rastafari was the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
Okay.
That was the only place where the handful of Rastas could gather and feel safe. Because the Orthodox Church has been around in Toronto since 1972.
Rastafari. Black woman, I say your heart is so golden. I know you were chosen. This world cold, but your heart never frozen. Anyway then, black woman, I wanna see you smile again. Wanna see you walk beside the Nile again. Wanna see you raise the African child again. I wanna see you living in style again. Then, black woman, I wanna see you rise again. Take time, look in your eyes again. One touch, nature rise again. Black woman, don't be surprised again. Then, black woman, look how she work and slave. Right by my side down in a this slave trade. History can record the sacrifice she made. Reparation can match all the price she paid. She now go live like no mice that afraid. So I and I the lion of is strong and brave. She says she love the way the king of kings I praise. Plus me no trim nor shave. Anyways, well then, black woman, I wanna see you smile again. Wanna see you walk beside the Nile again. Wanna see you raise the African child again. I wanna see you living in style again. Then, black woman, I wanna see you rise again. Take time, look in your eyes again. One touch, nature rise again. Black woman, don't be surprised again. Then, black woman, I know he hurt you bad. You grow with your mother, never know you're dead. Your boyfriend a beat you anytime he mad. Plus you not get no joy from the job she have. But she not go say coffee, no life that sad. Work too hard, feel no happy and glad. She search for your man, we got a righteous drag. She find a man with a red, gold and green flag who never brag. Black woman, I wanna see you smile again. Wanna see you walk beside the Nile again. Wanna see you raise the African child again. I wanna see you living in style again. Then, black woman, I wanna see you rise again. Take time, look in your eyes again. One touch, nature rise again. Black woman, don't be surprised again. Then, you're always welcome to come home. She's searching for a love is real, and she don't wanna be alone. She says she wanna love that she can feel. David Offspring's on the throne, and I know that he loosed the seventh seal. Babylon dear falling down, that is just what the prophecy revealed. Well then,